ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for clicking on another one of my videos. I am Screen Scene Guru, and today we'll be discussing the 1978 Christopher Reeve Superman. So without further ado, I've got a bit of information pulled up on another screen. So going into the story for the movie, an alien orphan is sent from his dying planet to Earth, where he grows up to become the adoptive home's first greatest superhero. So really awesome story here, guys. I highly recommend going back and checking out all the Superman movies now that we've got a new one coming this July from James Gunn. Really exciting news there. So I'll go into a bit of the cast for the movie. We of course have our lead Superman, starring Christopher Reeve. If you have not heard the tragic story of him in the horse accident, I highly recommend you guys watching the Prime documentary about him. It's very good and informative. I'm building my way up to that. But we've also got our Lois Lane, played by Margaret Ketter, and our Lex Luthor, played by Genehackman. He unfortunately passed this year as well, so it's really cool to catch up on these infamous IP films. So starting off with the opening scenes of the movie, we see space. They open up with the shot of Krypton with a great score. Richard Donner directed this, the same director of The Goonies and other classic iconic films. So we get to see Zor-El, Kal-El's father, putting Zod and the other criminals of Krypton on trial, and then eventually we get to see their imprisonment, and they have to keep things quiet about the destruction of Krypton, so they kind of swear him into secrecy. But of course he has built a rocket so that his heir can live. Very interesting role for, let me see if I can find Marlon Brando as Jor-El. So really cool stuff there. I saw this on 4K with my Vizio TV. So very interesting. Marlon Brando reminded me of Pedro Pascal. I wonder if anyone else catches that. But really cool performances all around. We of course get to see Kal-El's ship come to Earth in Kansas, and that's where we get to see Martha and Jonathan Kent. Let me see if I can bring them up. Let's see, we got Ma Kent, played by Phyllis Taxer, so that's nice. And then let's see, we've got Laura. I'm not seeing a casting for Pa Kent, but he does have a heart attack early on in the film. When Kal-El's like a teenager, we get to see a cool sequence of him running across a field next to a train, racing past a speeding train. So that was really cool. Kind of like a reference to Flash in the comics, so that was awesome. Then we get a bit more of a time jump to him in his 20s. He's working at the Daily Planet now, which I thought was really cool. We get to see our Perry White, played by Jackie Cooper, which I really liked him as well. It's an old school style of the Daily Planet. They're reporting on small world issues until of course our Superman arrives and he begins saving people from catastrophes. There's a really awesome plane sequence where a helicopter gets jammed on the tower of the Daily Planet and Lois is in danger and Clark saves her, so that's really cool. Like compared to the movies nowadays, the budget, the quality, I think it's still really good. It holds up, but a lot of people can tell obviously that the sets and designs were very basic back then. I'm watching also the Richard Donner Superman 2 right now, the Donner cut, and I thought it was very interesting. The Niagara Falls sequence with the boy falling and Superman having to catch him and bring him back to his parents, that was interesting, as well as Superman goes to visit Lois at her apartment, I believe. He flies her around, takes her back, and she pulls a gun on him, which was very interesting to see, because Lois is trying to prove Clark is Superman, so she ends up pulling a gun and shooting him, which I thought that was interesting. Something from the comics, I'm sure, but very interesting story there. What did you guys think of the 1978 Superman and the follow-up, the Donner Cut? I do need to make a full video on that because I haven't finished the Donner Cut yet. But interesting that they showed off Lex Luthor as the villain of the first 1978 Superman. He was a land man, cultivating different properties from people, and he wanted to place a bomb in San Andreas to blow up California, to turn it into more waterfront property, which I thought was very interesting. More realistic villain compared to space aliens like Kal-El. So very interesting stuff there. I can't wait to move on to the other films. Real quick before I leave you, I do want to mention some stories that I did cover in a previous video, but I'm not sure if the audio was quite good, so I do want to just repeat a few stories real quick. Starting off with Sydney Sweeney being involved in Gundam. She is currently tapped to do a Gundam live action series, or movie, should I say, from Sony. So that's very interesting to hear. We heard our first news from Mel Brooks that Spaceballs 2 is happening in 2027, which is really cool. That means it's from 1987 to 2027. That's a 40-year time jump. So very interesting stuff there. James Gunn addressed the DCU, saying they are writing a Wonder Woman story right now. Supergirl is supposed to be done, I believe. They're currently working on Lanterns as well, so that's really cool for the DCU. And then, of course, we're going to be getting Creature Commando Season 2, and a lot more. So that's really fun. I mentioned that ticket sales for Fantastic Four are the highest of 2025 thus far, from Fandango, as well as the DC Studios was putting out Superman tickets through Amazon, which that was kind of a debacle. Hunter Schafer is supposedly cast as our live-action Zelda. That's gotten some controversies. Going on, we might be getting a Thor 5 after Doomsday and Secret Wars. We're not exactly sure what their plans are with the Thor character, given Chris Hemsworth has been playing, homage videos for Marvel. So that's very interesting. Tamora Morrison from Boba Fett was asking Lucasfilm where's his season 2, and a whole lot more news was going on. I just got done covering Sirens for Netflix. Really good show, guys. If you haven't caught it, I highly recommend it. On Netflix, only 5 episodes. Getting us introduced to Millie Alcock, so that's really cool.